Hey there, we are live for episode 2 of Reclaiming Leadership with the Good Business Witch. Hey, I'm Megan Winkler, your host, and I am so excited that you're here today. We are going to dive into one of the several principles of empowered leadership. Empowered leadership is my approach to leadership, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. So, one of these principles is everyone has a seat at the table. So, if you have a team, you have brought these people in for a reason. You have brought them in because they're good at what they do, they're bringing value. They all have earned a seat at your table. And it is important to remember that everyone has a seat at the table. And this is also related to burnout in a really interesting way. We'll get into that in a bit, but for right now, I want to chat a little bit about kind of what leadership is from where I sit and what I mean by everyone has a seat at the table. So I like to think of leadership not so much as a long conference table where the leader sits at the head and kind of commands from there. Instead, it's definitely more like Arthur's Round Table where everyone has something to contribute. There's no head of the table, that sort of thing. In a large organization or even in a small business with smaller teams, I believe that a team of people work better when they feel like they're equals. Now, obviously, in larger corporations, you have a hierarchy. Don't get me wrong, I totally get that. But within each level, like there should be some equality that's going on there, some free sharing of ideas. There's a few leadership styles that I'd like to go through that kind of illustrate the different ways that someone can lead a group of people. And I'm going to run through these really quickly so that, we're not caught up in a bunch of definitions and academic kind of research. But I think they're really important to understand. So, one of the very classic styles of leadership is an authoritarian leadership. And thank goodness this is going out of fashion in workplaces. And these leaders are super strict when it comes to their rules and their expectations. And quite honestly, in my opinion, they're not so much leaders as they are managers. And I don't think they're great at either one of those things, honestly. You also have your laissez-faire leaders. So these leaders they just kind of let things run their course. They do tend to help give some guidance at the beginning and then kind of simply leave it alone and let it do its thing, as the name suggests. And the name, of course, comes from the economic idea of laissez-faire economics that dates way back to the 1750s, like way back. And honestly, pretty archaic, if you ask me. You got to have a little more involvement in things. Transactional leaders are really interesting. They promote productivity and results through incentives. So there's like a reward-based system. You might have like contests in the workplace, contests among your team. Visionary leaders help their teams to understand that their work has a larger purpose. It's in pursuit of a larger goal in the world or in the organization. And I value both transactional and visionary leadership. I think they're great. I also value spiritual leadership, not religious, but spiritual. In that, it's like we're all serving kind of a higher purpose. And maybe that's the higher purpose of the organization or higher purpose in the world. And I think they're both like very, very valuable. But for me, democratic leaders, no reference to political parties, democratic leaders are really great. Democratic leaders are very participative, excuse me, as I stumble over my words. They are looking for their team to jump in, and they're going to ask members of their team to contribute, to share ideas, to bring value to the table. And quite honestly, this to me is the best type of leader. I think this kind of leader is most apt to say, hey, everybody's got a seat at the table. Like, I hired these people, or these people are here for a reason. I value my team members so much, and I want to know what their ideas are, and I want to know what they kind of see for the future of my company. And I brought them in because they're experts in their field. And I think that when we bring people onto our teams, no matter how big or small those teams may be, it's really valuable to lean into their expertise, their worthiness. Because remember, everyone is worthy. Everyone has skills and values to bring to the table. And really, the opposite of this is, of course, the idea that we feel like we're the only ones that can do things right. Only I can do it right. So rather than leaning on others, and I don't mean that as like using them as a crutch, or using them or manipulating them in any way, but to say, hey, Jane, I know you're fantastic at blank. I could really use your help on this, or I really use your insights on this. Like, really relying on the other people sitting on at your round table with you can really relieve so much stress. And in a larger sense, I'm going to say something that you may not like. In a larger sense, there's a lot of ego to thinking that only you can do the thing. We women have been told by well-meaning folks for decades that we can have it all, but I really like to refer to something that I read from former First Lady Michelle Obama. She said, we can have it all, we just can't have it all at once. And I think there's so much wisdom in that. And I believe it is so courageous to trust in other people's abilities. And it is so brave to let go of the reins a bit and let someone else take over. Because again, everyone is worthy. Everyone is skilled. Everyone has these great ideas. And if they have been brought to your table, they are there for a reason, right? And as you release your hold on these day-to-day tasks, as you lean into the worthiness and skills of others, you can also release the stress that comes with being the sole badass, right? Because we know you're a badass, but other people are too, right? I'm going to say something else that you may have issue with, and it relates, I promise. We crave drama. I know. I know what you're saying, but I hate drama. Do you? You may hate it in your life. I hate it in my life, but we like watching it unfold in other people's lives. I mean, we've got reality TV. It's so easy to get like sucked into the drama of like, oh, your cousin got in a fight with your mom, and all these things, over Easter dinner or whatever. Like dramatic books and movies, right? They're exciting. And the reason we love drama is because our brains are actually built to crave something new. Our brains crave novelty. That's how we learn. The problem is if we have too much drama in our life, it can lead to burnout for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is that it's overstimulating to have that novelty all the time. I mean, it's boring to not have drama, but our brain and our mental health is in a much better place. Everybody has their limit. I call mine my extrovert hangover. So I'm a total extrovert, but there's times when even I am like, I cannot deal with people. I don't want to hear anything new. Just give me my tortilla blanket and my Friends reruns and my giant water bottle, and I'm just going to sit on the couch for a little bit, because we all have our limits. So if you're trying to take on everything, you're causing drama for yourself. You are taking on everybody's responsibility for everybody else's actions. You're taking on responsibility for everyone else's tasks, even like the PTA meeting agenda and leading it, or, if you're volunteering in the community, if you're taking on all this stuff, you are creating drama for yourself, and drama can lead to burnout. One of my former bosses, back when I worked in a more corporate setting, planned all the events for the company throughout the year. She sent out all the emails, even though, like, one of the big reasons I had come onto the team is because I had a lot of experience sending emails out. They don't stress me out. It's an email. If there's an error in it, you just send out a recall. But like, she had to do it for whatever reason. She headed up all the marketing meetings. She met with all the other teams, and she worked pretty much right up until like a week before her baby was born. And I do not know, and I would not even hazard a guess to see how all of that affected her birth experience or the weeks after the baby was born. I mean, having been there myself, I know that those days can kind of flood into each other and weeks become months before you know it. I do know, however, from observing her, that she was burning out before the baby arrived. And it doesn't serve us to take on all the tasks and do all the things. And as a warning, just a gentle warning and reminder, we'll wear out and lose our stamina quicker than we realize. It's not worth it. In a study conducted by leanin.com, 37% of employees feel like they need to be available for work 24/7. They need to like take on everything. These employees are twice as likely to burn out. Only 1 in 3 employees have received guidance around blocking off personal time in their calendars. And only 1 in 5 have been told that they don't need to respond to non-urgent requests outside of work hours. And when it comes to senior level women in the workplace, there are more than men. They're more likely than men at the same level to feel burned out, exhausted, under pressure, so they have to be on 24/7. And something interesting that I found in my research is that women actually, we feel the need to be invited or instructed in certain things. For instance, when we are applying for a job, we need to feel comfortable negotiating a salary. So kind of like a note um, in the job posting that says, salary negotiable, that sort of thing, then we'll more than likely negotiate it. However, if it's not there, we don't tend to, whereas men will. And I found through my research, it's just really fascinating to me that in a lot of work situations, we are waiting for the prompt. We are responding to prompts. We are responding to invitations to advocate for ourselves. So if only 1 in 5 have been told that they don't have to respond to non-urgent requests, my conclusion, based on previous research that I've done, is that those 4 in 5 assume that because they haven't been told that they do need to respond to non-urgent requests outside of work hours. And that just leads to burnout. And we've got motherhood burnout. We've got compassion fatigue. I mean, these are all so real. And like I stated in last week's episode, women are still doing twice as much unpaid labor as men. So adopting the ideal that everyone has a seat at the table it can only serve you. It can only serve your team. And especially if you're like me, where you have a large heart for other people in the world, you're very compassionate. Having this ideal in your work, it supports so much of what you want to do as a heart-centered business person. And it's going to help you work toward a burnout-free life, which I think we all want. I mean, honestly. So this week, I encourage you to look around at the people on your team. Look at the people around you. Look at your support system. How can you ask for their help? How can you rely on their advice and on their guidance to help you get all the things that you need to get done. I'll leave you with that. If you're interested in breaking up with burnout for real, and ideally forever, my 7-month group program is starting in October. We start on October 10th. And it is a group program that is designed to help you break up with burnout for good. And we'll be going both the strategic and spiritual route. So we'll have some very concrete tasks like getting your calendar organized, and really analyzing if you're empowering people or if you're enabling people in your life, but also a lot of inner work and some self-leadership work. So we're going to be talking boundaries. We're going to be going through all the challenges that face us as women who, have experienced burnout and don't want to go back or are concerned about getting there. So if you'd like to learn more about that, head over to goodbusinesswitch.com and click on Break Up with Burnout in the top navigation panel. And I would love to answer any questions you have. Also, fun thing. So if you head over to reclaimingleadershippod.com, you can check out all the episodes to the podcast. You will also be able to view all the YouTube videos there. And I will be launching a voicemail system so that if you have thoughts, if you want to share your burnout stories, if you want to share your leadership stories, even like horrible stories of bad leaders, pop them in there. I'll have that up this week. And I would love to hear from you. And please understand that your voice will be on the air. And please, maybe just say your first name. Don't say your last name if you want to remain anonymous. And that's fine too. And yeah, go check that out. And as always, you can find me on Instagram at the Megan Winkler. And just Google me. I'm everywhere. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fabulous week. And as always, stay magical.